This is my latest build. The method for the layout of a folding knife is fully illustrated in my How to Build a Folding Knife tutorial, one of my first videos. In this video, I'm going to be going over how to make dome pins, how to do file work, and how to make a pouch for this particular knife, along with building the knife. You start out with a pattern. It's very important to get this correct so that all the parts fit. Lately, I've been using a 3D printer to print my parts out full size so that I can check that everything goes together well, and also that I like the way it looks once placed together. Make 6 copies. These will be then cut up and glued to the steel, and then the steel will be cut out to shape. Here I'm using a random pattern Damascus steel for the blade and bolsters, and nickel silver for the liners. Here the parts have been cut out to size and drilled. I use a drill press to make sure everything is perpendicular. The bolsters can be epoxied on, but I prefer to use a silver solder. Here are the mother of pearl inserts. This is where the 3D pattern really helps in getting these cut to size. This is a jig I use to make my dome pins. It's basically 2 pieces of angle iron with 1/4-inch dowel pins placed. This aligns them and keeps them in alignment. It's very simple to make. First, I place the angle iron together, drill the dowel pins, clamp them tightly, then drill 2 holes, one 1/16 of an inch and the other one 1/8 of an inch. These will accept a solid brass rod, 1/16 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch, which are the normal sizes that I use to make my pins. Once the pin material is placed, the jig is then placed into a vise and tightened so that the pins don't move once they're hammered on. The material is allowed to extend about 1/8 of an inch above the jig. I then use a file to flatten the material. It's then sanded with some 220 grit paper. Then I use a small ball peen hammer to hammer around the outside of the pin, leaving the center alone. This gives you a rounded type shape. Your goal is to slightly expand the diameter of the pin so that it fits firmly in place. The pins are then followed by rouge with a Dremel tool. This rounds and polishes the edges so you have a nice mirror type finish. They're then cut to size. They can be epoxied into place or peened over. Here I'm going to demonstrate the file pattern. The drawing shows the intervals where the marks are made. This is set up on a 1/2 inch framework. The initial points are made 1/2 inch. Marks are made down one side of the knife and the blade. And this can be extended all the way around the knife if you'd like that type of effect. Nothing really special here. These are purchased from Harbor Freight. I start with a 3-sided file. This is used to score the steel, followed by a round file, and then a other 3-sided file that has a sharper profile. You can use other files, but these will probably do 90% of all your file work, and they're very inexpensive. Here I'm marking out the 1/2 inch spacing. This will be followed using the three-sided file to score these areas. It's important to score these as accurately as possible. If you try to go at this just with a round file, you're going to end up sliding off and ruining your pattern. And since this is done on a finished blade, you're going to have to start all over again. Now the round file. These initial marks are made pretty much just straight across the blade up until the halfway point. Now I score 1/8 inch to the right with again the three-sided file, but in this case I'm following up with the round file. Start across the blade, but then start angling towards the right and down, so you have a slanted, rounded area. You'll want to move this almost to about 45 degrees or more just to make a smooth transition. I know this is like watching paint dry, but it does take a considerable amount of time to file the entire area out. And I'm trying to demonstrate as best I can so that you'll be able to reproduce this on your own. The next step is to go to the left of the initial mark, 1/8 of an inch, and make a slice into the metal with the narrowed three-sided file. Here you can see half of it's done. I go over this with some fine sandpaper to about 320. Now you repeat this on the other side, but it's important to offset the initial 1/2 inch spacing 1/4 of an inch and to go in the opposite direction with your file marks. Again, three-sided file followed by the round file. Until you've duplicated this pattern along the knife for as long as you'd like. This shows pretty much both sides done. There still needs to be some touch up and final sanding, but that's a process for this particular style. There's a lot of patterns that you can do, and I'll be showing those on knives in the future. This is a knife placed together, put together. I think it would be nice to have this in a pouch. So I took out some deer skin. I've got a pattern that I think will fit and hold the knife well. It's deep enough. I'll make 2 pieces, one for the front, one from the back. These are marked out. This is a washable marker. And then the parts are cut out. These are then placed face to face and then sewn. I have a leather sewing machine, so it makes it easier for me. Here are the strips for the laces being pulled through. Here I took a piece of deer antler and cut it and then drilled 2 holes in it. This will be used for the closure. I punched holes into the top of the pouch and then used the lacing in an in and out fashion surrounding the pouch and then into the deer antler. The pouch protects the mother of pearl, and I believe adds a nice touch to the completed knife. If you've learned anything from this video, please leave comments if you'd like to see something else, and subscribe if you found it to be useful.